Hello. 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 How are you guys doing? What's up? What's up? It's been 9,000 years, I think, since I've been on here. We got people up in the chat. It'll pop up over here when we start talking again. I thought it would show the chat as it's going, but I'm trying a new thing. So that's kind of why it's being weird, I guess. So we're buffering. Is that the case? You know, the YouTubes are not often kind to me. So they're okay. So I don't think it's buffering anymore. So I don't expect a lot of people to be here because the last time I streamed was in February. So it's been a while. Nina is still with me. Let me pop her up on her camera and you guys can say hi. There she is. Just hanging out. Those are her treats in front of her. She's very particular about her treats. She doesn't always like them. So yeah, I don't know. So this is going to be an interesting stream because I haven't done this in a while. Cute dog. Well, thank you. That is Nina, the science dog. So I'm using Restream's format instead of OBS because I have been having so many problems with that software in my computer. I haven't tried since my computer's been fixed. But it's been a hectic, quite a few months, I guess. So how are you guys? We've got Critical Cripple in. We've got Origin of Language, The Sinister Porpoise. Let me see. I think the last time I live streamed was with Doc Savage. Oh, you're in from Shab's Discord. That's cool. So the last time that I live streamed, let me see. Let me share my screen here. Yeah, so okay, 4 months ago, The Science of Vaccines with Doc Savage. If you haven't checked out that stream, and if you're really like, do I get the Pfizer Moderna? Doc is a world-renowned immunologist, and he helped develop the HPV vaccine. He worked on one of the COVID-19 vaccines. He's been like cited, I think we're up to 600 or 700 times now for his work. And he's currently working in Europe, trying to build a European division for an American company. Terribly important guy. So please do check out that stream if you have any concerns or questions about the vaccines. Hey, Native Atheist. So 4 months I have not streamed, and I've been doing a lot of stuff outside of that. Hello, Das Boot. I've been trying to deal with the freaking pandemic. Yes, it has been a long time. I got fully vaccinated in April. That was my second shot. I used the Moderna shot. No, wait, no, it was Pfizer, not Moderna. Sorry. Same type of tech, by the way. They're both messenger RNA vaccines. But I used the Pfizer. I got the Pfizer. And no real side effects other than being a bit tired and having a sore arm. And if you actually get cold-like symptoms, if you get like a little bit like flu-like symptoms from the vaccine, that's okay. That means your body is responding to it. That's not a bad thing. You're not getting COVID. It cannot give you that disease, but you are going to, you are responding to it. That's your immune system responding to the vaccine. Hey, Nether6. I've missed you guys too. 4 months since my last stream, according to the YouTube. I really needed some time off. The spring semester was pretty rigorous. I teach general chemistry. I'll start teaching again next week for a summer semester, 2 courses. Both of them an entire semester of chemistry crammed into a month. It's not ideal for students. Not so much me. I totally got this. But I always discourage science majors from taking sciences over the summer. It's not the best thing, in my opinion. Particularly, I mean, if you're like pre-med or pharmacy school, and I tend to get a lot of those pre-med pharmacy students, you want plenty of time to absorb chemistry in your brain. Your brain can only process information. And, that's different for each person. I don't know that many people that can take in an entire semester's worth of information, process it, and actually learn it to where it's usable for future chemistry classes. General chemistry is so important for organic chemistry and for biochemistry. And if you're going to do a pre-med or a pharmacy school type of situation, you really need a good functional working knowledge of that chemistry. And it's amazing how people lapse when they don't, actively keep that information in their head. And it's just learning, learning's hard. Already got my second bio in tech shot in May. Since I work with COVID tests, both shots had me dead tired the next day. Yeah, I've heard, I got pretty tired, but I didn't get horrible side effects, and I'm totally happy I got the vaccine, totally happy. Let's see. Don't take calculus. Don't take biochem until you have finished chemistry and organic chemistry. Very true. Very true. Hey, Eric. How you doing? It's good to see everyone here. Nina, the science doggo, in case people missed it earlier. Here she is in all of her sciencey glory. Just hanging out with her treats that she refuses to eat. She's about 8 years old now. I don't know what I'm going to do when I start teaching in person, because she has a really hard time with separation anxiety. She does not like to be by herself at all. Oh, you took physics and calc at the same time. I didn't start understanding physics until you were 2/3 of the way through calc. I took calculus first. They wouldn't let me take calculus-based physics. They wanted me to take trig-based physics. And so I had to take trigonometry, which I was not as good at that as I was at calculus. And so when I took trigonometry, I'm like, gosh, this is terrible. And then I go to take physics 1. The teacher was trying, he wasn't good. He was a grad student. And I'm not knocking grad students, but this one had no interest whatsoever in actually doing his job. I barely passed that class. And then the second semester, I actually got a B in physics. I did all right the second semester because it was all about magnetism and electrons. The first one was how many forces on a pulley. I'm like, man, I don't care. I'm more interested in like life science and chemistry and stuff like that. So we're like, 2 electrons are moving in a field, I'm like, dude, I got that. Scapegoat is Scariot. How you doing? You're scheduled for your second Moderna? from Walmart Pharmacy after my first one, my libido increased. I can't rule it to be that because I also began taking St. John's wort. Yes, when doing scientific experiments, you cannot have multiple variables happening at the same time. You change just one. Causation and correlation and all that, you know. One variable at a time. So there you go. Oh my goodness. So I have been looking at some of the news lately, and this came up. You cannot have a percentage of a variable if you can rule if you can rule it out ahead of time. Yeah, you got to be able to, just one variable at a time. So I saw this. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. I saw this on the news. Radioactive hybrid terror pigs have made themselves a home in Fukushima's exclusion zone. So there is a nuclear disaster that happened in 2011. To be fair, so I need to preempt this. Nuclear disasters are rare. They're very rare when you consider the history of nuclear energy. It's still probably the most environmentally friendly outside of wind and solar. We've got a lot of nuclear facilities already set up, but there's a lot of stigma and taboo centered around nuclear. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you guys can see it a bit better. Alrighty. So radioactive hybrid terror pigs have made themselves a home in Fukushima's exclusion zone. So human resettlement after 2011's nuclear disaster is facing basically biological opposition from indestructible, betusked interlopers who had radioactive hybrid terror pigs on their 2021 bingo card. Not me. Apparently, they're resistant to radioactivity. Hey, gonna go for it. How are you doing? So we have hybrid terror pigs that are resistant to some radioactivity, it seems. The local wildlife was affected, and this, which has in many cases rewilded urban areas vacated years ago by populations forced to move out by the threat of radiation following the disaster. Okay, so this particular process is familiar because we've had human evacuations before, particularly when you look at the Chernobyl incident in 1986. And then, so even though they tried to control the animal population, it still was a thing. They were expecting to find wild boars in the affected zone since they have been reported in former urban areas for some years, but having come down from the surrounding mountains to reclaim the towns and cities of the area as their own realm almost as soon as humans vacated them. So as soon as the humans were gone in 2011, the wild boars came right back in. They came in and were just like, it's time to party. So this particular case, the local wild boar, a subspecies endemic to the region known as the Japanese boar or the white mustached pig, that's kind of fun, having created a fiefdom covering all of the locale, and 160,000 humans were basically moved, became cocky and aggressive, and also lost their natural wariness. So they're not afraid of people. You know, normally you have animals, they're a little bit afraid of people and they'll avoid them, particularly predator types. Predator types they usually avoid people because they're like, we don't want to deal with them. But they don't care. And so this particular case, the marauding boar started to interbreed with escaped domestic pigs from the local farms after those farmers had to flee from the disaster. The pigs, for their part, were ill-suited to life in the wild in a radioactive post-apocalyptic and hellscape. This article is hilarious. And presumably threw in their lot with a tough wily boar as their best chance of survival. So the domesticated pigs, not suited for the wild, hooked up with the boars. Now we have hybrid terror pigs who are resistant to radioactivity. Thank you, evolution. Thank you, natural selection. So this is what we found out. So the result was a new kind of boar pig hybrid that originated in the initial exclusion zone within 20 kilometers of the site of the nuclear plant, where the radiation levels were presumably highest. The study found that hybrids did not display any types of mutation, despite the doses of radiation they were subjected to. So you have a certain amount of radiation and they go through, and there's certain amounts that you can withstand. This is bad science journalism. You're right, Nether, but it is fun to read. So essentially, these particular hybrid boars were radiation resistant as far as mutations. Their DNA didn't change. They didn't really have any major issues. That's what they're saying. So what they see here is surveys of the local boar population found they are contaminated by up to 300 times the safe human dosage of the lethal isotope cesium-137. So they can take the dosage. So calling them radioactive pigs or boars isn't necessarily correct, because they're not in themselves radioactive. I don't think they're releasing radioactivity, but they're absorbing it pretty well, given what's going on. It's about 10% of the local population. So people are having a really hard time getting land back from these aggressive, radioactive resistant boar pig hybrids. This is funny. In some cases, the aggressive porkers have refused to give ground and have attacked returning humans, meaning human authorities have been forced to deploy armed assassination teams of hunters to flush them out. Oh my goodness. This sounds like Beast Wars. When is Optimus Prime coming? We're going to have the Transformers show up at some point in time. So yes, this particular article, not entirely science-y journalism. It's still funny. But what can we take from this? What can we take from this? Essentially, whenever there's a natural disaster, and this is a disaster of some sorts, human-made, and it's a disaster for the environment. Don't get me wrong there. It seems that the domesticated pigs, the wild boars, they hooked up because the domesticated pigs are like, we don't know how to wild pig. We don't know what to do here. So, since they didn't know how to wild pig, they hooked up with the boars who were like, we know how to wild pig. Come join our clan. We're going to have babies together. And they were able to actually develop a resistance to radioactivity. But they're also aggressive, like super aggressive now because of the fact that they've been allowed to roam free for the better part of 10 years after the Fukushima the Fukushima nuclear disaster. So they're like, we've been here 10 years doing just fine. You people ran away. This is our land now. So they're having to send out assassination teams to kill these pigs that are like, you're not taking our land. Oh my goodness. So let me see if I can get the chat to pop up here on this. It only just comes up when I post a thing or when you guys post a thing. So I can leave the chat up. There we go. Now it's showing up. Points. Yes. Let me catch up on the chat. Similar to what happened in Chernobyl, animals have taken over the land there too. I think it's mainly wolves and boars. Yeah. All right. Scapegoat has questions. ScientistMel. So have you heard of the vaccine causing an increase in energy or libido before this? If not, I would think it's the St. John's wort. I haven't heard of anything like that. I have not heard anything like that. And as far as DOS boots, you can get just one shot with the Johnson & Johnson. You don't have to have 2 shots with that. So if you get if you want the COVID vaccine but you don't want multiple injections, the Johnson & Johnson single shot should be all right. Oh goodness. So I'm catching up. The radioactive boars are coming for you. Oh my goodness. They are. It's funny. Yeah, and it is bad science journalism, and it reads like this whole article reads a bit like a sci-fi B movie. Like you would see on the Sci-Fi Channel. It's like you'd find like Debbie Gibson and playing a part, and then possibly Scott Baio as a lead. Oh, not knocking Debbie Gibson. Debbie Gibson was in a sci-fi B movie. So that is correct. Those are some tender pork chops, Das Boot. I don't know. They're pretty mean. If you want to eat those pork chops, you're going to have to like fight for it. Hey, Mr. Shadow Kitty. What's up? Donald Goodnight. What's going on? I don't do homeopathic medicine because medicines that's been proved to work is called medicine. That's right. But I remembered St. John's wort did work well. So I got some. And it's different for every person. It's different for every person. I mean, sometimes you're more receptive to certain herbs than others. That's okay. So, I mean, there you go. So I wanted to ask you guys, did you see Sam Neill? Yes, life finds a way. Hold on. So, no, the guy who said life finds a way, that was Jeff Goldblum. He was the rock star scientist. Funny story about his clothing. Funny story about his clothing. So Steven Spielberg was like, when he was talking to Jeff Goldblum, because, Jeff Goldblum shows up in leather pants in a leather jacket to a tropical climate, of course, as you do. Unless you really want lots of butt sweat going on, if you don't powder and you're going to a tropical climate, oh my God, you're going to sweat and you're going to sweat and you're going to sweat and you're wearing leather pants. Come on. Anyway, when Steven Spielberg approached Jeff Goldblum, he was like, I want you to play like a rock star scientist. And what he meant was somebody who was like world renowned. Okay. Best rock star scientist I know is Doc Savage. But he doesn't show up to work in leather pants and a leather jacket. He doesn't show up to work like that. And so Jeff Goldblum in his head was taking rock star scientists, not in that world renowned, well respected, really famous, you know what I mean? He wasn't processing it in that way. He was processing it he was processing it as, I need to be like a rock star. And how do rock stars dress? Leather pants, leather jacket. So he was going that whole route, which, you know, kind of worked for him, you know, a chaos theory doctor. Chaos theory is a lot of fun anyway, if you've ever checked into that. Chaos theory is so much fun. You can get all the way down to the quantum level on that stuff. It's pretty neat. And I did a show on it once. But there you go. So Jeff Goldblum, life finds a way, and it does. But then again, Gary Priestley just joined, unless you want lots of butt sweat. Yes. Meanwhile, hello, Gary. Meanwhile, chaos theorists are the nerdiest of math nerds. They are. Oh my God. You got the pendulum experiment. The more pendulums you add to it, the less prediction you have on how it's going to go down the road. So, Dynacat Loves Me is here. How you doing? So the whole idea with the chaos theory is you can only predict out so far with a certain number of variables. That's why weather prediction, and it actually was generated from weather prediction, chaos theory. You can't, this is why we can't predict weather months in advance, because there are too many variables involved in weather. No bandanas. No bandanas for freaking Jeff Goldblum. He wasn't doing the whole Axl Rose thing, I guess. I don't know that he could pull off an Axl Rose look, Jeff Goldblum. But that's okay. So, I want to show you guys this. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. The ocean was on fire yesterday. Here, let me share again, but except with audio, in case there's any audio here. All right, so this is 26 seconds. I don't know if you guys saw this. This is from M. Lopez San Martin on Twitter. This is his video. This is the Gulf of Mexico, and it's on fire. It's recently put out, though. But the pipeline underneath burst, and it was caught fire. So it's pretty scary. This is why we need to get off of the freaking fossil fuels. I understand that we need some fossil fuels for plastics, and we use plastics in the medical field and things like that. But we got to do better than this. This is absolutely horrible. Let me see. What did they have to say? So this was on the surface. So this was west of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. It's been extinguished thankfully. So the state-owned oil company Pemex is blaming a gas leak from an underwater pipeline for sparking the blaze that was captured in videos shared widely on social media. So they were saying the bright orange flames resembled molten lava and was dubbed an eye of fire on social media due to the blaze's circular shape. And as it raged a short distance from the Pemex oil platform. And here's Mario Lopez. I'm sorry, Mario Lopez. No, it's Manuel Lopez San Martin. Mario Lopez is another dude. Oh my God. Let me wake up. Yeah, that is an expensive way to steam your fish and a great way to kill a lot of other animals. Have we lost transmission?
So here's a little pro tip.
Have we lost transmission? I don't know. It shows that it's there. Okay. Nope. All right. It's still there. Okay. So, the turbo machinery of Kumalub Zap's active production facilities were affected by an electrical storm and heavy rains, according to an incident report shared by one of Router's sources. Those details were not mentioned in Pemex statements. And nobody really explained what was burning on the water surface. So they're saying Angel Carrizales, head of Mexico's oil safety regulator, ASEA, wrote on Twitter that the incident did not generate any spill. Well, then what was burning? What was burning? I mean, we need to know. And so this was 8 hours it burned, apparently. So what was on fire? What was burning there? What flammable thing was burning? This is crazy. So it probably is some kind of gas. If it's not liquid oil, because, you know, oil and water separate. Oil could come to the top and catch fire. What was burning? What's the substance here that's flammable if it's not an oil leak? That's my question. That is my question. All righty. It looks pixelated. I think that might be because I'm streaming it off of the internet onto that. But you can find it here. I will put it in the chat. I will put it in the chat here. Yeah, we've got a lot of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And I don't know that we can remove that so well. We are kind of past the point of naturally removing it. Yes, we're going to have to do a lot more than that. Mario Lopez. I know, Das Boot. I haven't thought about that human in a while. So that's really weird that that just popped up. So I'm catching up on the chat. Funny, the fireboat's so far away. Yes, they have to be that far away. And I'm going, if it's an oil fire, why are you using more water? Is that water? What did they use to actually... That's how you figure out what was burning. What did they use to extinguish it? That's the question. What did they use to extinguish it? That's how you find out. what kind of fire it was. Whale farts. Oh my goodness. You know, aren't whales just cows anyway? Do they have like a lot of methane production that comes out of their back ends? That's a question I don't know the answer to. Do whales produce methane gas? I mean, we can look that up. Let's see. Do whales, I'm gonna look it up. Do whales produce methane? Let's see. Apparently, whales' heads explode. Okay. I'm just going to show you this because this is a little bit disturbing. FYI. Okay, so sometimes when people ask me questions, I'm like, you know what? Let's find out while we're on the show. Do whales produce methane? The first thing that pops up, guys. Why do I thought dead heads explode. Why do dead whales explode? Sorry. I thought it was their heads explode. See, I read wrong. I read it wrong. This produce, okay, so they die and they produce methane. Well, yes, because they're, let's see. Whales keep carbon out of the atmosphere. So this is from scientificamerican.com. Okay, fine. So they don't really produce, it looks like, contribute to the global warming problem. It's not letting me blow this screen up anymore. Let me try again. There we go. Okay, they're worried about climate change. If conservation efforts pay off because they're trying to save the whales. Whales are crucial to ocean carbon absorption. All right. Whales could play a role in helping the islands meet the reductions of their nationally determined contributions of greenhouse gases from the Paris Agreement. The main takeaway here is that whales eat carbon, not fish. Huh. I did not know that. Whales facilitate carbon absorption in two ways. On the one hand, their movements, especially when diving, tend to push nutrients from the bottom of the ocean to the surface, where they feed on the phytoplankton and other marine flora that suck in carbon, as well as fish and other animals. The other, explained Natalie Barefoot, executive director of Set Law and co-author of the report, is by producing fecal plumes. In other words, pooing, she said. That also introduces nutrients that create marine plants in the area. These plants use photosynthesis, which absorbs carbon, thus enhancing the carbon capture process. All right, there we go. Whales are useful for removing carbon by eating it and by pooping. But whale poop might be flammable. I don't know. It might be flammable. There's no way to tell 100%. Well, yeah, there is a way to tell. Collect whale poop and see if it catches fire. Let's see. It happened when they opened the doors from hell for Donald Rumsfeld. Mel learned to read from Billy. I probably did. Hey, nerdy rodent. Billy's a hot mess. Every time I'm on anybody's channel and he shows up, he wants to be like a turd to me. Billy's words are flammable because it's mostly just turds. Try watching a dead whale explode on a beach. Nothing compares. Yes, they do explode. At first I thought it says, I thought it was talking about their heads, but no, when they die, they produce a lot of methane and it just. Witchy poo, how you doing? So Oh my goodness. All mammals do produce carbon upon death. They do. This is why plants will outlive animals, because they eat. I mean, we drink it in our soda, but it doesn't have any nutritional value to us. Plants can turn CO2 into sugar with oxygen in water. You give them some oxygen. Well, actually, no, carbon dioxide and water. Get a little bit of that, mix it with some sunlight and some energy, and they get sugar, man. And yes, plants do they do give off carbon dioxide when they die as well, but other plants can eat that. Hey, fire child, Godzilla had some spicy chili. Oh my goodness. So what was burning? Gas burned, no spill probably refers to no oil spilling too. Maybe gas, Nether. Maybe methane. Reminds me of SpongeBob. How can there be fire underwater? Was it Sally? Was it the squirrel? Was her name Sally? Is it buffering? That's so weird. I'm sorry it's buffering. Blame it on the whales. Is methane a soup? I don't think so. It is a gas at room temperature, so don't know how you would make it into a soup. Hey, August. August SAH. Gross. It's surprising how many animals fart. A lot of animals do fart. I've smelled a dead whale. It was the single worst thing I have ever smelled. Said Mr. Shadow Kitty. Oh my goodness. You tried to find out if flies fart, nerdy. Oh my goodness. Mr. Shadow Kitty, you clearly never ate at a Trump restaurant. I actually did once for my 18th birthday. I went to Atlantic City. There, we saw Harry Connick Jr. in a small venue, and he had a full band. It was awesome. And she wanted to eat at one of the Trump restaurants. Worst food I've ever had. It was terrible. I mean, for real, it was not very good. Worst food ever. And I'm like, ew, why would anybody eat this? Let's see. My claim to fame for the day is to have successfully distracted Mel into looking up whale farts. Why not? You know, it's a science show. Fungi. Billy is a protostomia. Yes, he is. His words are flammable because nothing but poo comes out. To be fair, Billy did help me build my computer. He's a very nice person. All of the people at the Geek Room are lovely. They're like my brothers. They're funny. And we just pick on each other all the time. It's great. Hey, Sandy. You want this mug? You know, I got it at the Disney store, guys. I'm not going to lie. I got this mug at the Disney store several years ago. They acquired the Star Wars empire. And I'm like, I really like this mug. And I also used to work at the Warner Brothers studio store when it was a thing, when I was much younger. And that was pretty fun. I have so much stuff there from there because they gave you like a 20% discount and then they'd mark their stuff down to 75% off. So I have so much stuff from the Warner Brothers studio store. It's unreal. I still have a lot of it. I have like a mint condition Pinky and the Brain watch, my beanie, my Marvin the Martian beanie. That's wool, really nice. I've got a bomber jacket. It's really cool. Really cool. I am a bona fide nerd. It's fine now. Yay. Kim Jong-un does not fart. The man is nice. I saw that film, The Interview, Gary. I saw that. Hey, Harmonica Man. Aw, you're very sweet, Harmonica Man. Tell you that you're sexy. I am fatter now, guys. The pandemic has caused me to increase in size. I think the size of my back end, there's a correlation between that and the pandemic. And it's like NASA is going to start researching my expansion because it's like moving like the universe. But good news is I'm vaccinated now. I feel better mentally. I'm going to start hitting the gym because I miss it. I miss going in and do what I call my superhero training. And I will get back to where I will be cosplaying again. I don't like being thicker like this. My clothes don't fit right. And I'm really tired of wearing yoga pants all the time. Dave, you're fired. Poor Dave. Poor Dave. Oh my goodness. So we've talked about radioactive hybrid terror pigs. Really fun article. I forgot to put that in the chat, by the way, if you want to go through and read it. You can and check it out later. It's not terribly good science journalism, but it is just a fun read. They're not really radioactive, but they're good at absorbing radiation. My Pinky and the Brain watch. Let me see if I can find it. It's back here somewhere. I don't know where it is. I've been a part of Kevin Smith's stuff. Recently, I've been getting stuff from his I'm part of his Discord and everything. Really neat little miniature scripts he sends out. So it's kind of cool. Let's see. But, oh, God. It's all right. Then I got my beanie. This is a really old hat. Woo! Sorry. Warner Brothers Studio Store. Good luck finding that stuff. There you go. There you go. All right. House Pfizer for vaccines. There you go. That as well. That as well. All right. So I've been trying to catch up. I've been I've been kind of quiet on Twitter as well. I've just been taking some time to get better. I mean, it's just this pandemic has been absolutely depressing. And I'm lucky that I have a job. I teach chemistry at the local college. It's really cool. And I love what I do. But working from home has not been the joy that I thought it would be. It's like you wear your jammies, wear jammy pants all the time. And then you're like, I can just, it's cool. I can take a nap. And then after a while, when you can't leave because the pandemic, I was having my groceries delivered. I was wiping down my groceries. I have a sanitation station. I didn't get COVID. I tried really hard not to get COVID. Have I noticed that my supervisor is sleeping through the whole thing? Yes, she does. I'll bring her up here. So my supervisor, I couldn't do anything, nothing that I considered part of my normal life that contributed to my well-being mentally and physically. Nothing. I couldn't do any of it. And so I was working here, and this is supposed to be like my fun room for science communication. Well, this became my work office. Um, this became my work office. And I stayed home. I wore masks when I left. I cleaned stuff, packages, everything when it came to my house. I hand sanitized. I washed my hands all the time. If I did eat out, I would have the food delivered. I would wipe down the packages and then I would throw it in the microwave and heat it up a bit longer, just in case somebody sneezed on my food. I went, that's the thing about being a scientist who had to work in a cell lab. You're like, oh. So having to do that level of everything. And I love my job. I love science communication, but I was on all of the time. There was no off. And I had been doing this for almost 2 years. So I needed some months off because I was waking up having panic attacks in my sleep. And it's just something I cannot control. So I had to go to the doctor, had to sort that out. Then I had to recover from all of that. And I don't think people realize that's, an unseen illness. And it's not something that happens to me all the time. It's like a cold. Sometimes you just get sick and you get a cold. But it was happening so frequently that I couldn't even function at home. Like, this isn't cool. So all of the things that I normally do to maintain my health physically and mentally were taken from me because of this pandemic. So trying to capture that and understand that is, I've spent the last 4 months just trying to feel like myself again. And so it's worked really well. So let me catch up on the chat. That's where I've been, taking care of me. I am so sorry, Native Atheist. I have family. We think one was, we think COVID might have taken her, but they didn't run any tests. It's a nasty virus. It is a nasty virus. Yoga pants don't lie like children or drunk people, says Donald. Good night. No, they don't. YouTube is not letting you give me money? Of course not. I do have other ways. I have Streamlabs and a PayPal. PayPal.me/ScientistMel if you want to give me money that way too. I'm very thankful for the money. I haven't been streaming as much, and my patrons, they're very, very caring, about that, because I was on all the time and a lot of stuff. Thank you, Itchy Poo. Burnout is a real problem. Sinister Porpoise says, I can't do SEO content anymore. Burnout is a very real problem, and you get the pandemic brain fog. I've had the brain fog, which is part of the reason why I'm having a hard time talking. I'm trying to get my quick-wittedness back, and it's hard sometimes. I have been working the whole time. I do international food logistics now. More lucrative than testing lab core samples, but not as exciting, says Donald. Oh, okay. Oh, my goodness. Hey, KCA Randy. I'm so much better than I was. I think my website is down, so I've got to fix that. I'm doing all right for the most part. I start teaching chemistry next week. The 6th is the first day of class. I'm teaching General Chemistry 1 and 2. And I'll be making some new content for them. Trying to figure out how I want to do this last month, because I'm going to go back to teaching in person in the fall. And I'll be teaching 7:30 a.m. like Monday through Thursday. I will be driving and teaching early morning chemistry. Why do people take a 7:30 a.m. class? Probably because they're working. And I have a very diverse student population. So meeting their individual needs is always a challenge. But these are adults and not well, I say they're not teenagers, but some of them do come straight from high school. But it's okay. But a lot of them do work. And again, never take a science class over the summer. Your brain just cannot retain a lot of that information all at once. And if you've got to take organic or biochemistry, you really need that full semester of several months of practicing general chemistry, because it's not the same as high school. It's not the same as high school chemistry. And there's a lot of algebra you got to remember and practice and stuff like that. I am glad to be teaching it, and I will be in person, because sitting in a chair has caused me to gain some weight that I do not want. So I will be, I'm a very active person. I don't even like sitting in my chair for more than an hour. So when I teach, I'm walking the classroom or the lecture hall, whatever. I'm walking up and down. I'm looking at what students are doing. I don't just stand at the front and say, "Hear my words," and write down everything I say. I don't do that. I'm like, okay, get a piece of paper out, get a pencil. This is what we're doing now. We're going to go and we're going to look at this. This is the concepts. This is what we're discussing. This is what you need to be able to do. Man, we get right to business. But you learn stuff. You learn stuff in my class. I don't do just tests. I'm not that professor. I need multiple forms of evidence that somebody mastered content, So you can make A's on all my tests and still fail the course if you did not complete other portions of it. I mean, you could, if you don't do the labs, if you don't do the homework, if you don't do the quizzes, if you don't do those assignments and you make A's on every test, you will fail my class, because I have to have multiple forms of evidence to show that you know what you're doing, which upsets some people, but is really good for people who don't test well as well. I don't test well. I've never been able to take a test very well. So I'm one of those people. See you later, Randy. Thanks for stopping by. The floor isn't going to sand itself. Well, there you go. Oh, I need to redo. I've got the stuff to redo one of my bathrooms, and I really just need to do it and be done. But then your brain says, like, nah, you don't need to do this. Oh, my goodness. So let's have a look. We've looked at some crazy stuff. Test anxiety over here. Me too. Oh my God, me too. Test anxiety. And that's one thing that got me through college. Bye, Gary. It's 2 a.m. there. Get lots of rest. That's one thing that got me through college, was to sit there and write out everything I knew on the back of a test. Especially if it was like multiple choice. I hate multiple choice tests. I hate them so much. I hate them. So if I had a multiple choice test, I would somewhere on my scratch paper write out everything that I know. And I would list numbers and say, this is what I know about this question. This is what I know about this question. That saved me so many times. I would have some classes where the entire course was 3 tests and that's it. That's your whole course. And I hated that because I put in a lot of work and then I'd go and sit down to take a test. I'm like, this isn't an accurate assessment of my knowledge. So that's why, as a professor, what I do, you have to do the homework. You have to do the homework. You have quizzes that help prep you for the tests. You have labs that you do. You have to do the labs, and then you have exams. Exams are 35% of your grade. 65% of your grade in my class is doing the work. I need to see that you know what you're doing. So yeah, the exams are a formality, but if you don't do the work, you will not pass my class. Because I know if you do the work, it's going to reflect in the exams as well, usually, unless you have really bad test anxiety, but then you got all this other stuff that you can use, to buffer that grade and say, I don't test well, but hey, look, I nailed this quiz and I got my labs down and I've been doing all my homework. And I'm like, well, that still counts as evidence of content mastery. And I can take that to the chair and go, look, here's all the stuff that they did. Yeah, they were terrible on this exams, but they did this, they did this, they did this, they did this. They did all of this work and it's good work. Let's pass them, So that's what it comes down to. And I don't think a lot of professors, well, not a lot, I'll say some professors don't consider using that as evidence for content mastery because they don't want to grade it. There are online tools that do that for you. So online tools that do that for you that you can go through and it grades it for you. So when I transition back to in-person, they will have online homework. They will have online quizzes. Their labs will be in person and their exams will be in person. The rest of the stuff, it's just, they're graded automatically. So professors can set that up to where it's graded automatically and use that. Hey, B, not just B. What's up? Teachers do keep civilizations going. It's a lot of work, though. Hey, Penultima. What's going on? Funny thing. So far, 36 QAnons are running for Congress. Oh my gosh. I would run for Congress, but I don't feel like getting killed. So I'm a woman scientist who's been on the internet and said things. So, there's no telling. They would just find a reason to burn the witch, Now is not the time for me to do anything like that. Particularly where I live. Oh my goodness. I was going to do something and I forgot. I saw Steven Crowder said something really, really stupid. So let me pull that up. And I tweeted about it. I normally don't talk to him or talk about him. He's irrelevant to me. The most I've experienced in my uni time, multiple choice, have been max 20% of a test. Gosh, man. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pull up my tweeters. Oh, hey. So it still looks like, even though Periscope is technically not around anymore, it still shows up on Twitter, which is nice. It still shows up on Twitter. All right. So let's have a look at this hot garbage. Let's have a look at this hot garbage. All right. So Steven Crowder said this: going into surgery momentarily, I hope they don't F my booty. Y'all can read that. While I'm under anesthesia. So that's a totally normal thing to say, right? Who says that before going into surgery? Nobody does that. Nobody. And so I posted this on my personal Facebook, and some of my gay male friends, um, they went through and they're like, he completely overestimates his gay appeal. He completely overestimates his gay appeal. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I think maybe at either he doesn't understand medical science, or he's kind of divulging what his internet search preferences are. You know what I mean? I think I would really like to have a peek at his Google search. I think that would say a lot, and it would make a lot of sense. Ooh, Be Not Just Spee says, a guy who is homophobic due to the fact that he's bi-curious. Yes. I think so. And it's okay. Oh, gosh. And then some of the responses were like, I think he is expressing his secret fantasy. I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder if that was doctored. Hey, Amiga Nuts. 5G signals. I haven't stuck a key to my arm yet. I should see if I'm magnetized. I should find out if I'm magnetized yet. I bet I am. I need to upgrade my arm Wi-Fi. Oh my goodness. What is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? I did have a question from Julie. And so she asks, and this was on Twitter. She used my hashtag #HeyScientistMel, so I thought I would answer her question here. This may be a strange question, but is it extremely unlikely that somewhere in the universe, atoms could be composed of fragments of subatomic particles, making them half the size or less? Atoms composed of quarks and electrinos. I think maybe she means neutrinos. If it can be possible, could they be stable? Well, atoms are made of subatomic particles anyway. And the reason why there's so much space doesn't have, the reason why atoms are pretty large for what they are is because of the fact that the nucleus of an atom is positive and electrons are negative. And so the nature of these subatomic particles and how they work, protons are within the nucleus. But you also have neutrons there to help the nucleus be stable. Because if you had nothing but protons in a nucleus, the atom would rip itself apart because like charges repel. So the neutrons are there. They're kind of like the bouncers in the club. You got all of these protons moving around. You got to kind of keep them separated a little bit so they can have a cohesive unit, right? And then you've got the electrons that make up the atoms. And so they're negatively charged. So in order for an atom to be stable where its energy levels are, that's the lowest energy conformation for the way that atoms are set up with the ratio of the protons and the neutrons versus the electrons. I could get into a little bit of quantum. Gluons and quarks are quantized. They cannot be fractured. Attempting to do so creates new subatomic particles from the energy put in, says Nether. Yeah, we don't really see a lot of these things. We don't really see anything smaller than the elementary particles. We do see the neutrinos, but we can only detect them. We're still trying to find certain particles that we know exist because the math says they exist. Example, gravitons, the particles that are responsible for gravity. We know gravity is real, but we haven't observed the graviton, the particle responsible for that. Good to see you too, Witchy Poo. Critical Cripple asks, ScientistMel, where will we find the island of stability? Is that like the island of lost toys? I'm not certain what you're asking. But then again, my brain is not fully functioning. Let me see. I'll look it up. Island of stability. Okay. All right. In nuclear physics, the island of stability is a predicted set of isotopes of super heavy elements that may have considerably longer half-lives than known isotopes. Huh. Okay. And so we're looking for that as possible powerful nuclear fuel for future fission-propelled space missions. There we go. All right. Yep. I got it now. So I don't know. I'm not a nuclear chemist. I touch on that a little bit in class when it's in general chemistry too. We do talk about nuclear chemistry. We don't get into heavy physicsy portions of it. But that would be a really fun class to teach. Got into nuclear. So PBS has a video on that. I'll put that here if you're curious. I love PBS. It's pretty cool. And it seems to be animated. So that might be a fun thing. I hate to pull up freaking PBS and start playing it on my channel because they are notoriously bad about channel striking, them and the BBC. Don't bother trying to play PBS or the BBC. But this is a pretty down to earth video. You can download it. It's about 7 minutes long. Animated. I'll have to check it out myself. Alrighty. Oh, goodness. All right. So let's have a look. And I'll probably go here in just a little bit. Let's have a look at some really cool science news. Ah, wrong button. I'm still learning which button to use. All right. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. All righty. So here, this is the National Science Foundation, nsf.gov/news. I like to pull them up from time to time. And so let's have a look and see if we can talk about some really cool science that's just come out. Artificial photosynthesis promises a clean, sustainable source of energy. So let's have a look at what the latest research is on artificial photosynthesis. Discovery could open a new frontier of clean energy. This looks pretty neat. Colors, green colors. That's the spectrum. Green, the color green. Chlorophyll, right? So that's the wavelength of light that chlorophyll picks up, is in the green visible spectrum. Alrighty, let's see. Wind power and solar power harnessed by photovoltaic cells are the two major forms of clean energy available. Adding a third, synthetic photosynthesis, would dramatically change the renewable energy landscape. The ability to store the energy easily without requiring bulky batteries would dramatically improve the ability to power society cleanly and efficiently. So what we've got here is the closest process to artificial photosynthesis today is photovoltaic technology, where a solar cell converts the sun's energy into electricity. The process is inefficient, capturing only about 20% of the sun's energy. Photosynthesis, on the other hand, is much more efficient. It can store 60% of the sun's energy as chemical energy. So this is a particular study that's being funded by the National Science Foundation. They're mimicking the process by building an artificial leaf analog that collects light and splits water molecules to generate hydrogen. That's the biggest issue with hydrogen fuel cells, is where do you get the hydrogen for the hydrogen fuel cell? So if you're able to split water particles, there you go. Wonderful source of hydrogen. So hydrogen can be used as a fuel by itself via fuel cells or other added fuels, or added to other fuels such as natural gas, or built into fuel cells to power everything from vehicles to houses to small electronic devices to laboratories and hospitals. So if you want to, we can check this out. Yes, I know. We're leaving the National Science Foundation, going over to this link that highlights a little bit of chemical catalysis, on how it is that they're able to split water molecules and get essentially those hydrogen ions. So this takes you back to a little bit of general chemistry. You got your two water molecules, split it into oxygen, and then you end up with 4 electrons freely hanging around and 4 hydrogen ions. And what they use is they use a metal, cobalt oxide based WOCs, that's water oxidation catalysts, comprising of cobalt and oxygen. They're currently the system's most structurally and functionally close to the oxygen evolving complex of manganese calcium oxide. And this is for the photosystem too that we see in nature. So this mimics one of those particular metal complexes that we see in nature that's associated with photosynthesis. So if we're able to do this catalytic water oxidation, where we're able to split water into oxygen into hydrogens, that's where we can get our hydrogen and use that for hydrogen fuel cells, which would be a great fuel source. Hydrogen is just so hard to come by. And that has always been the main thing that has caused us so many issues with going to hydrogen fuel cells. So here's this. If you want to read into some heavy brainy stuff, it's not as accessible as far as language as like the National Science Foundation. But if you have some chemistry background, you can get through this. So this oxygen bond formation. So essentially, this is the metal complex that they're talking about. They hit it with an X-ray, splits apart the water molecules, would attach to it to allow us our hydrogen ions. That's like super heavy nerdiness. Super heavy nerdiness. Looks at Mel's screen and comes up with more work for critical cripple. Oh my goodness. Yep. I'm catching up on the chat. Oh goodness. Hello, Ox. How are you doing? All right. There we go. I think someone woke Ox up. Who was it? It might have been me. I have a very loud mouth. Let's see. Catching up. Oh, takes around 4 joules of electricity to create 1 joule worth of hydrogen. In most cases, it's better to power things directly. Well, yeah. But they're working on it. They are working on it. All righty. I can't think of anything else to chat about. Well, it's good to see you here too, Ox. Oh, you're sweet. I haven't had a haircut in almost 2 years. I can't remember the last time I had a haircut. And it's just, oh my goodness. So if you guys ever have any questions, you can always hit me up on Twitter with the hashtag HeyScientistMel, and I can read them out and answer them on stream. I think this is a pretty good system I got. I'm using Restream right now, and I've set everything up in here, and I can transition between my screens pretty easily. You like the color of my hair? Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let me read some Mr. Rogers. I haven't read Mr. Rogers to you guys. I always do that at the end of the episode. All right. So this is Understanding Love in the World According to Mr. Rogers. All right. Understanding Love. In times of stress, the best thing we can do for each other is to listen with our ears and our hearts, and to be assured that our questions are just as important as our answers. Yes, yes, yes. So again, the world according to Mr. Rogers, his thoughts on understanding love in times of stress. The best thing we can do for each other is to listen with our ears and our hearts, and to be assured that our questions are just as important as our answers. Mr. Rogers. I still haven't watched any of those movies yet with him because my heart can't take it. I love that man. I grew up, and, one of my brothers from another mother, Darnak, he says, no wonder the world disappoints you, Mel. Your role models are Mr. Rogers and Kermit the Frog. Yes, I tried to be like Mr. Rogers, but some days I just cannot do it. I ask myself, what would Mr. Rogers do? And then people on the internet lose their minds and act like jerks. And I'm like, well, Mr. Rogers would not do what I'm about to do right now. So I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers. I'm not you, but I try my best. Don't get a haircut, says Donald. Oh, goodness. Well, I will be back here next Saturday. If you have a particular topic you would like me to talk about, hit me up on Twitter. You can also post it in the comments. I'm here chilling, hanging out with you guys. Happy to talk about the latest in science news, or even, whatever topics that happen to pop up. I might do more about the latest science news. Yeah, Mr. Rogers had bad days as well. There's a picture of him flipping off somebody. So I'm like, I appreciate that. Abiogenesis, says Amiga Nuts. Okay. I don't think I've done an episode on abiogenesis. So I could totally get into that. I'll be teaching again. Snooze. Science snooze. I'll be teaching again. So I might go from time to time pulling out some ideas that I have about, I don't know, chemistry, because that's my job. All right. Well, this has been awesome to see you guys. We're coming up on an hour and a half. So how do people who can tie their shoes and even hold a job become QAnons? Oh my goodness. Isn't that a question? In person, because of course you never stop teaching. That's true. Oh goodness. so much fun, and I like teaching. I do enjoy my job, and I like that I get to help people. And particularly 70% of the students where I'm at are poverty line. So I get to help them get an education to help pull themselves out of poverty into prosperity through bettering their lives. So it's very rewarding, and I love what I do. So here we go. So I'm going to sign off with that and say, you always make each day special for me. You know how? By just your being you. I'll be back next Saturday with some more sciencey goodness. I'll see you guys later. Sending squishy science hugs. Bye.